Hello everybody, this is Gabriel with a trend scan here in the futures market for the month of July. So here we're looking at the Nasdaq futures contract, and this is a vertical market in action, right? So markets are going vertical. We're way overextended from the moving averages, and the best approach to trade on or analyze these markets is to assume that this is going to continue, right? And we have to assume that, but we have to be aware and be very cautious at the same time that there might be a very strong pullback, counter trend reaction back towards the moving averages. But you should not second guess this trend, right? This trend is so powerful. Well, it's a vertical trend, right? So it's price is like moving into a vacuum. This is why it's moving up, and this might go a long way, right? I mean, if you squeeze here a little bit, I mean, we never know where it ends, but it might end at the 20,000 level or even lower. Well, we are getting here an exhaustion move, right? Any exhaustion move, a vertical market, we don't know where it ends. But a vertical market, well, this is going to continue for quite some time, right? At some point of time, well, we might get a very strong and powerful reaction, maybe back to the 21 moving average, and then we'll continue going vertical. Well, this obviously offers great trading opportunities. Well, from one point of view, for long-term investments, when you can hold something, if you keep your losses with protected with a stop, and I mean, the quarterly chart is vertical, but it basically triggers down into the lower time frames as very strong and nice trends. I mean, we see it here on the weekly, a strong and the smooth trend. What we see it here on the daily, well, that's a super trend. And any strong trend, be it an EMA trend or be it a super trend, well, can be traded very nicely, trading the futures systems. So this looks like a system 2 in development. Very nice and strong trend, right? So if there's a vertical market like this, big exhaustion, well, you see really nice tradable trends in lower time frames, and there's plenty of opportunity. Now let's have a look here, for example, at the Dow Jones. The Dow Jones is at an interesting, charting situation here on the daily. I've been talking about that during the last month, that we're going to see a lift off here in the US equities. And well, we've already seen it with the Nasdaq, but the YM and the ES, it looks like, are following through early next week. So the index has been in a sideways price activity for a month and a half, and that's always good, right? I mean, this is a refresher and a pause, and for a strong trend to continue, well, at times you need these refreshers. Well, this dip here actually tested the 21 moving average on the weekly, and that's a healthy pullback. That's what we're looking for. So here as well, the YM and basically all other US equity indices around the world are going vertical. And you should just assume that it continues. So once this high gets broken, well, we should actually see nice follow through coming out of that. Now let's have a look at some metals here. Let's start with gold. So gold had this nice up move, right, breaking the 2011 high. Well, price was exhausted, so it needs to consolidate, and it basically did that here with a 2-leg pullback into the 21, and it just needs a little bit of more time, right? I mean, sometimes the markets, you have to grant time to the markets and be a little bit patient. But I think we're going to see a second leg. So if you just assume, well, this is the first leg coming out of a turtle pattern. This is the first leg, it's just a pullback. Well, we're going to see a second leg. Well, if a second leg develops, then we see new all-time highs, and then we will actually see nice follow through. And what we've seen here, this first move is just a break of the last high. So the next move we'll actually see a much better follow through, I believe. Now let's have a look at silver, because silver is shows relative strength against gold, right? It keeps up very well here on the weekly, like it respects, like price respects the 21 moving average. We can see how price bounces off the 21. It even bounces off the 8 here on the monthly. So that's very strong price activity. It doesn't mean that we might see a quick sell-off here towards the 21. This can always happen because 8 is not such a strong area of dynamic support. However, if we do not get a pullback to 21 and we actually make a new high, well, this would be actually a very bullish signal if the 8 support is sufficient for price actually to find its bottom. Now, Palladium is quite interesting because I talked about Palladium in the last monthly TrendScan, and it was basically around here, right? And we said, well, it would be nice if price drops down and tests the 21. Well, this has happened now. Well, it dropped well below the 21. Well, this still goes for a test. It's a great test, actually. Well, price here has made a new high, right, above the February 2021 high, and now it's just retesting 21 in order to make a new all-time high. So that looks pretty bullish. And this is actually, well, this is an S1 pattern that has just triggered. And I believe that we are going to see a lot more bullishness here coming from Palladium. Now let's have a look at copper. Copper looks a bit different. So we've got a similar, well, the same pattern right here on the daily. It's an S1 that has not yet triggered a buy signal, but we're way overextended here on the quarterly. We're overextended. We're overall sideways. So I'm less bullish here for copper. We might actually see that this might not trigger, might not re-break the line. And we might actually see that this does not show a lot of follow through because we are way overextended and we've got a rejection bar here within this overall price activity. So what we've seen so far is a lot of bullishness, right? Let's have a quick look at crude. Well, crude is very bullish too. And you might remember that we had this spike low. So the barrel went below, I think it was 740. The barrel went below $10, which is quite amazing. Well, that was an exhaustion move that basically ended this downtrend that was on since the great financial crisis, where dollar was at the barrel was at 220, as you might remember. Well, that would have been a great moment to get into a long-term crude position, right? I didn't do, but in hindsight, well, that was a no-brainer, right? Anyway, crude is showing a lot of strength. It has rebroken this resistance line, and now it's running for stops. Like these levels, these are stop run levels, and it has already broken the first one. Well, that's a cluster of, well, because they're so close, these two levels, so it's basically one level. It's a cluster, and we might actually see some follow through here into the next couple of days or weeks, and we might see that this monthly bar is as big as this one, or maybe even bigger if it takes out this other stop run level. So we see a lot of bullishness here in crude as well as the other contracts, heating oil and gasoline, etc. Natural gas has made its counter trend rally. I believe, and I talked about that during the last monthly TrendScan. Well, basically, natural gas is the last contract that is still in the downtrend, right? But I believe we have got a bottoming formation here. This was an S1 pattern that didn't show any follow through. Well, it's actually a failure pattern. And whenever a pattern fails, well, that might actually be a counter trend signal. And this is what we've seen here. Well, we've seen a counter trend rally taking out these two stops. It might even go higher, this rally. My target is the 200 moving average here on the weekly. And we might actually see this monthly chart or this quarterly chart having seen a bottom here, and it might turn into a bullish chart, same as all the other contracts and asset classes we have looked at. Last one, let's have a look at the US dollar index. So that's a basket of currencies, right? And there's a futures contract on that. So the monthly chart, well, this is the Corona spike, the fear spike in February 2020. And since then it has gone down. So going down means a dollar weakness. The dollar is losing its value against a basket of of the major currencies. So currently it's really nice to observe that, right? It's bouncing off this important line. This line is in for a couple of years already because this was a pattern. And now price is bouncing off. We see two bounces here of the line. And once we make a new low, like a low below this one, well, then we should see some momentum developing here as well, because then the quarterly chart should take over. That is a bearish charting formation, and we've got a couple of stop run levels, so it actually might go. We might see some price activity as we've seen here in the early 2000 years, and this is a consolidation, and we might see another momentum move like this to the downside, making new lows. So that's a weak dollar, and a weak dollar, as you know, well, that's bullish for other assets like precious metals, etc. So we might see a lot of upheaval coming, and the trigger point is basically a break of this level. We've got a double bottom, so that's a great level to observe, right? Thank you.